And what we're talking about here is the Potter Valley project. This project is a PG&E dam, several dams owned by PG&E. PG&E set fire to a bunch of people's properties a long time ago and went bankrupt. And as they recovered from bankruptcy, they determined that these dams were not economically viable for them to continue operating for power generation because they had a lot of other expenses paying for their destruction. So PG&E has decided to decommission the dams and take them down. And so they've filed with FERC, which is a federal agency, but it's an independent federal agency, to remove these dams. And the California state agency, which oversees PG&E, has obviously pushed for this as well. And I say obviously because the state of California, Governor Newsom has been pushing very hard to remove dams along their waterways to protect salmon. He's very proud of this. And if there's one thing we know about Governor Newsom, he would go as far as burning an entire city to get what he wants. He doesn't care about the 600,000 people that are going to be left without water if they destroy this project. And there are some alternatives, and I'll explain to you what's wrong with those alternatives and why they're not going to meet the needs of the residents in that area.
Ancient eras and natural selection have refined and tailored pristine fibers with the resilience for today's days. Evolving beyond the last ice age, bison wool is nature's most dependable activewear. Buffalo Wool Company, 100% proven by nature, 100% American made.
Check out the Buffalo Wool Company collection at yanasatradingco.com. But right off the bat, here we are, we're looking at a project that is privately owned, but public citizens have become dependent on this particular utility. So it's a privately owned utility governed by the state of California, and as far as their dam is concerned, FERC really only has the ability to grant them a license and make sure that that license is closed out properly. The federal government will come in and say, okay, well, you need to reclaim this space back to its natural state. And that is essentially right now where it stands as far as rights go. And like I said, Newsom doesn't care about his constituency. He doesn't care about the 600,000 people to get what he wants. And so you're not going to see much of a push from the state of California to do much of anything when it comes to removing these dams. They want them out of the way because he wants to protect his salmon. And there may be more to it than just salmon. I mean, if you think about the overall objectives that Newsom is trying to accomplish, fish may just be an excuse. And I think that because if you read our Yanasa TV Substack and you go back to an article I had written, it's called Dry Taps on Potter Valley, How California's Water Wars Put Fish Before Farmers. And it basically talks about the early August 2025, just last month's cutoff of water to farmers in Potter Valley. Farmers and people and residents woke up to just a trickle of water, and at this point in time there was no warning. Okay, so these people had planted their crops, they had put the investment in. You saw this in Idaho just a year ago, where Idaho had come in, they shut off the water on farmers after they had invested in the crops that were in the ground. That is a disaster because it's going to create an economic situation that puts people under, bankrupts them, sends them, to just simply puts them out of business. You can't recover from the inputs if you get shut off from water. And so this concept of going at it without any type of warning and no planning whatsoever and just shut off the water is the perfect way of bankrupting those individuals. There are so many other ways that they could have gone about this, but that's the path that California chose. And I say California because even though they had to get FERC's blessing on it, it's the California state agency that is governing PG&E. And if you look at the overall objectives, what are the objectives of the state of California? What are the rewilding objectives? How much land has the state of California purchased or traded hands with other people with over the last couple of years? These are all questions that I have. And I'm not saying that there's some big conspiracy here, but what I am saying is that it seems to keep happening. And you don't shut off water on farmers after their inputs are in the ground unless you are intentionally trying to bankrupt them. There's just no other reason for it. And I can tell you there's no other reason for it, because in that article that I wrote, I actually did an analysis of the inflows and outflows of those reservoirs.